Hello YouTubers and welcome to another episode of The Golf Nerd. This lesson is intended to help beginners, new to the game, but all players need to make these tips a primary focus. Only when we focus on these tips can you play your best golf. But first, have you subscribed to The Golf Nerd? This is a growing community of golfers and I'm committed to providing you the absolute most helpful information. So just go ahead and hit that subscribe button and you'll never miss any of the content that I have in store. Now, let's improve that game. Fundamental number 1, the grip. The first step in any good golf swing is a good grip. Now, I've seen some really poor grips hit great shots, but if you want to be consistent, you need to master the grip. I'm going to show you a very traditional grip that you can vary from slightly, but I would highly recommend that you start here and only change as absolutely necessary. First, a quick primer. There are 3 grip types: the interlock, the overlap, and the baseball grip. Typically, the interlock is favored by players with smaller hands, but plenty of grip strength. The overlap grip is used by players who have larger hands, and the baseball grip is often favored by players lacking in grip strength. Most golfers would be best served by interlock or overlap, but there's nothing wrong with a baseball grip if you need help with grip strength. Just be aware that it's a little more sensitive to excess pressure or flipping with the hands. Suffice it to say, we're going to focus more on your hand position relative to the club face and the position of the grip in your hands than on the grip style itself. Now I'm going to share with you the easiest visual for learning how to grip a club I've ever heard. It's called the suitcase method. Imagine you were picking up a suitcase that is on your left-hand side. You slide your hand beneath the handle until the handle is resting against the first knuckle, and then you would close your fingers around the handle to lift the suitcase. We're going to do the same thing with our left hand on the golf club. Rest the club head on the ground, even with your left hand, such that it is pointing directly down your target line. Slide your left hand beneath the grip while maintaining the club face pointing down the target line until the grip is resting on your first knuckle. Now close your left hand around the grip. If this is done correctly, the left thumb will be pointing down the grip at the 1 o'clock position. Pick up the club with the left hand only and place it in the middle of your stance, making sure that the club face is pointing directly at your target still. The V of your left hand should be pointing somewhere between your right ear and your right shoulder. Now bring your right hand to your left hand as if you were clapping. Lay the left thumb in the fatty part of your right palm. Your right hand fingers with the grip resting on the first knuckle now wrap around the grip and the thumb lays on top of the grip. When done correctly, the V of the right hand should be parallel to the left hand V, or it should be pointing slightly more to the right than the left hand. This is a very middle-of-the-road grip. Think Adam Scott or Tiger Woods. Now practice this. While you're at home, practice picking up the club every day using this exact process of the suitcase method. Be extremely critical of how well you are following these steps. Be very specific. It cannot be overemphasized how important a good grip is. Fundamental number 2, posture. Good posture is essential for any athletic movement, and golf is no different. In order to learn the correct posture, stand with your back by a nearby wall or chair. Make sure your heels are approximately 3 inches away from that wall. Now bend over at the waist while keeping your back fairly straight. It is very important to note, do not arch your lower back excessively when performing this bend. This will lead to injury. As Harvey Penick said, take an aspirin, not the whole bottle. So with a fairly straight back, bend at the waist and feel your butt move back away and towards the wall. Once your butt has contacted the wall, quit bending over. At this point, your knees should still be fairly straight. Give them a slight bend just to soften the joint. Taking a short iron with the grip we already covered, place the club down in the middle of your stance. Your arms should be hanging nearly straight down. If I was to estimate, they should be hanging somewhere between 80 and 90 degrees relative to the floor. This will depend on your build and height. Finally, set your stance width. Your stance width will vary by club length, with wedges having the most narrow width and driver having the widest. An approximate range is for the outside edge of your feet to be even with your shoulders for short irons. For the driver, the inside edge of your feet should be even with the outside edge of your shoulders. Stance width can impact other aspects of the swing. Therefore, it's better to be a little too narrow than a little too wide with your stance. Fundamental number 3, alignment. Golf is a game of distance and accuracy. In order to be as accurate as possible, we have to have good alignment to our target. So let's first review proper alignment, and then let's talk about how to align to our target on the course. Place a ball on the turf. Lay your driver down approximately 12 inches inside the ball. Now, using the grip and posture we've covered, position your wedge behind the ball with your feet together. At this point, the wedge should be in the middle of your stance. Now take a small step to the right and a small step to the left to the narrow stance we covered previously. Look at the distance of your feet to the driver shaft. Both your right and left toes should be the same distance from the shaft. If they aren't, then move one or the other until they are the same distance. Keep in mind, your arms should be hanging down at a 80 to 90 degree angle relative to the floor. So maintain this angle while you position your feet to keep both toes the same distance from the driver shaft. You do not want to be reaching for a golf club. Now assess your hips and shoulders. They should also be parallel to the driver shaft. Once you've done this, you are in a very neutral, square position. This position is where many of the greatest players have played from. There have also been many great players who have used a closed or open stance, but we will save that for another video. Suffice it to say, you can influence ball curvature by opening and closing body lines, but for someone practicing fundamentals, I'd recommend focusing solely on getting into a square, neutral position. Before we leave this fundamental, I am strongly encouraging you to practice this technique every time you're on the driving range. It is very easy to get alignment wrong and not realize it. Even the best players in the world lay down alignment aids to reinforce good habits. And if they do it, we probably ought to be doing it too. Now that we understand good alignment, we must align to our target. Place a ball on the turf. Place a tee 12 inches in front of the ball and aim the tee at a specific target in the distance. Now step behind the ball by several feet and allow your eyes to trace the line out onto the practice area that the ball and the tee are pointing to. This is your intended target line. If you follow the previous 3 fundamentals and set up to this ball along that target line, you will be aimed along that target line. So keeping this in mind, pick up the tee you laid on the ground, step back behind your ball once again, and pick a specific target in the distance. This target should be the size of a flag, or a tree, or a fence post, something very small and definitive. Now trace the line with your eyes from the target to your ball. You may need to do this several times to make sure you've traced the correct line. Once you have the correct line, look for a specific small mark on the ground 1 to 3 feet in front of your ball along this line. It could be a clover leaf or a dead blade of grass, just anything that your eye latches onto in that 1 to 3 foot line. Once you have your spot picked out, place the club head behind the ball and make sure, and I mean really make sure, that your club face is pointed directly at this spot. Once you are confident the club face is pointing at the spot, then take your stance behind the ball, take your grip, set your stance width, and get into good posture. You are now ready to hit this shot at your selected target in the distance. Jack Nicklaus swore by this method for aligning to your target, and I have to say, if it's good enough for Jack, it's got to be good enough for the rest of us. So find a spot, set up, take a shot. Step back, do it all again. This is what professionals refer to as their pre-shot routine. It's a really good one and it'll help, so practice it. Now you know what PGA really stands for. It's posture, grip, and alignment. These 3 things will make you a much more consistent golfer if you get really good at them. It's ironic because I didn't focus on these for years, and I've come to realize just how incredibly important they are. I know it isn't sexy stuff, but the payback for getting good at these will definitely put a smile on your face when you start posting better and better scores. Please remember to subscribe and like this post. Comment below if you have any questions about this video or you'd like some clarification about any of these fundamentals. Hit them long and straight, and I'll see you next time.